Hey friends, welcome to the Missiongathering Charlotte podcast. We're all about love, justice, and building a community where everyone belongs. No exceptions. So whether you're questioning, deconstructing, or just looking for a fresh take on faith, you're in the right place. Each episode, we dive into real conversations, inspiring messages, and the kind of faith that moves beyond words and into actions. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's do this together. Hey everybody, welcome back to Missiongathering Podcast. Sorry for the hiatus that we've been on for a little bit, but we are back, and I am here to get y'all started with our Lenten journey. We're doing a series from Sanctified Art called Everything in Between, and today we are talking about the first step in Lent, the first week of Lent, where we're stepping into something that feels both ancient and deeply personal, a road where hesitation meets urgency, where good intentions meet hard realities. The road I'm talking about is the road to Jerusalem. You see, Lent calls us forward even when we're not ready. It asks us, are you ready to move towards transformation? Are you ready to listen for good news in seemingly impossible places? Among people who are divided and angry at each other in a world that seems to be on fire? Are you ready to step into the journey even though every fiber of your being wants just a little more time to prepare, a little more time to sleep in? Friends, because the truth is that most of us, if we're honest, as we begin this outset of Lent 2025, are somewhere between intention and action. Our Bible verse today is Luke 9. Jesus is turning his face towards Jerusalem. As the time approached when Jesus was to be taken up into heaven, he determined to go to Jerusalem. He sent messengers on ahead of him. Along the way, they entered a Samaritan village to prepare for his arrival. But the Samaritan village refused to welcome him because he was determined to go to Jerusalem. When the disciples James and John saw this, they said, "Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven to consume them?" But Jesus turned and spoke sternly to them, and they went on to another village. As Jesus and his disciples traveled along the road, someone said to him, "I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus replied, "Foxes have dens and birds in the sky have nests, but the human one has no place to lay his head." Then Jesus said to someone else, "Follow me." He replied, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father." Jesus said to him, "Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go spread the good news of God's kingdom." Someone else said to Jesus, "I will follow you, Lord, but first let me say goodbye to those in my house." Jesus said to him, "No one who puts a hand on the plow and looks back is fit for God's kingdom." Luke chapter 9, verses 51 through 62, reading from the Common English Bible translation. Jesus is determined in this story, resolute. There's no turning back for him. He sends his messengers ahead to the Samaritan village, but they refuse him, not because of who he is, but because of where he is going. And here's where things get messy. James and John, two of Jesus' closest disciples, respond with all the subtlety of a thunderstorm, "Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven to consume them?" Think about that for a second. These two men have walked beside Jesus, witnessed his miracles, heard his teachings, and they're ready to destroy an entire village over a rejection. Jesus unsurprisingly rebukes them and then moves on. It's easy to shake our heads, though, at James and John, isn't it? But let's pause, because in their reaction, we see something familiar. We see a fear that leads to overreaction, a certainty that drowns out their compassion, and a desire to be right, even if that being right means the destruction of a whole village. And in contrast, we also see the hesitance of the Samaritan villagers. They don't reject Jesus because they don't believe. They reject him because they fear the consequences of following him to Jerusalem. Because Jerusalem is where things get dangerous. We see both responses today, don't we? Churches that often stood boldly for justice are now backpedaling and afraid of pushing too far. Others so convinced that they are right that they are willing to let people die to prove their point. Both responses are fearful retreat and reckless aggression, miss the point, miss the good news of the gospel. Because following Jesus isn't about securing safety or winning battles. It's about choosing a different road. The next part of this passage gets even more uncomfortable for most of us. As Jesus continues down that road, people approach him eager to follow. One says, "I'll follow you wherever you go," but Jesus responds with that blunt statement of foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the human one has no place to lay his head. In other words, this isn't a journey of comfort. Another man says, "Lord, let me first go and bury my father." And Jesus' response seems harsh. "Let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and spread the good news of God's kingdom." Another asks to say goodbye to his family before following. Jesus tells him no one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for God's kingdom. Y'all, that's a lot. These are not easy words. And I don't think they're meant to be easy words. Luke is not telling us that Jesus demands we abandon our families or give up having homes. But he is telling us something radical. Jesus is showing us the cost of following him. He is saying the road will not be easy. There will never be a perfect time for you to begin setting out on this journey. If you're waiting to be fully ready, you'll never, ever take that first step. And that's where we find ourselves today. Isn't it, friends? We want Jesus. We want to follow Jesus. We want justice and we want peace. We want a better world. But all of us, we want more time as well. More time to figure out, more time to prepare, more time to make sure we won't fail. And Jesus is exasperated, yet lovingly asking us, how long? How long will you say you're almost ready? How long will you hesitate at the door? How long will you wait to begin? Because the time is now. And friends, the truth is that we'll never be ready in the ways we wish we were. We will never have all the expertise. We will never have all the resources. We will never have the perfect, foolproof plan that will go smoothly without any interruptions. But Jesus isn't asking us to run the numbers. He isn't asking us to ensure success before we start. He is simply asking, will you follow? Because the road is waiting. Friends, Lent is here. Are you ready for it? Dr. Mindy McGrath Sharp puts it this way: when important preparation remains undone and fresh deaths remain ungraved, the time to move is today. What if listening is a practice on the move, a learning as we go, a birth crowning at the gravesides of yesterday? This is the day. Lent is here. Are you ready? Jesus will not force you ever to follow him. But here's the truth. The road to justice is not one of convenience. The road to peace is not one lined with comfort. The road to faith requires movement. Even as hardship waits on this path, friends, so does freedom. So does joy. So does the unshakable truth that our time here is brief, just a moment before we return to the dust we were made from. So with whatever time we have, let us say yes to Jesus. Not tomorrow, not when we feel more prepared, but today as he asks, will you follow me? May you say yes. May it be so, and amen. Thank you for joining us today on the podcast. You can come and visit us in person at 420 East 15th Street in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have gatherings every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. We'll have some coffee and snacks for you there and a warm seat for you to sit in. Just want to thank you again for journeying with us. I want to thank again Sanctified Art for this amazing series and the artwork that goes along with it. And I hope that you'll continue with us for the rest of this Lenten season. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.